How's everyone doing? So, I haven't done a video in a minute, and I'm an avid D&D player. And recently they brought out the 2024 versions of some of the classes. And I figured I would step into it just a little bit because I've been vocal on YouTube about some of the things that they've done. And after sitting back and actually analyzing the direction that they've taken the Ranger, because I predominantly play Rangers, I was kind of confused, dismayed, pretty much like everybody else, because I use Tasha's rules, and they beefed up Tasha's rules. But I finally figured out what they were tracking towards. And what they are tracking towards is a use of a particular spell for a single spell slot, or actually technically for free on concentration. And I'm going to get into that, and I'm going to show it to you. So this ought to be interesting for those people that are screaming that the Rangers suck. The Ranger actually has become very, very strong at high levels, and I'll show you why. So let's take a look at the 2024 versus the 2014 Ranger and what's new. As you can see, the spell casting has moved to level 1. It's been covered pretty much ad nauseum. You always have Hunter's Mark. You can cast Hunter's Mark twice per long rest without expending a spell slot. This number increases as you level up. You have Weapon Mastery. Natural Explorer was removed. Deft Explorer, gain expertise in one skill and learn 2 languages. I love that. I love that out of Tasha's. But this is where it gets interesting. You get your fighting style, and I do different things. Between throwing weapons, 2 weapons fighting, and Druidic Warrior. And my favorite subclasses, one of them is actually not here, and it's a Horizon Walker, and I'm going to show you what can be done if optimized correctly, even under the 2024 rules. Because there's a spell in there, and that's what got me to figure it out. Is the Fey Wanderer. I love that class, but I also like the Horizon Walker. Those are my 2. So roving has gone from 5 feet to 10 feet, plus you get to climbing and swim speed, which is good. Expertise, tireless, which gives you temporary hit points. Now, at this point, I was kind of dismayed because there was a lot of things that they just weren't doing with Hunter's Mark. It doesn't come till you get to level 13, where you get Relentless Hunter. Damage no longer threatens to break your concentration on Hunter's Mark, which is actually very, very powerful. It's really good. But then they moved Nature's Veil to level 14. It was lower level. And the uses are tied to your wisdom modifier instead of your proficiency bonus. That's actually was a very good move. Makes you kind of focus more on wisdom. Then you get Precise Hunter at level 17. And then, of course, Foe Slayer at level 20. Now, one of the interesting things here is at level 18, you get Blind Sight at 30 feet. Now, that is really, really good, and I'm going to show you why. This is Picovary Aaron Silverhands, but I'm going to go to a different version of this character. I used this for a one-shot. It's a Horizon Walker. And the way everything breaks down, what they did with the Ranger is they did one very interesting thing. So this is for my campaign, so we'll kind of flip past all this stuff and let everything get caught up. So that was the Shatter Kai I was messing with. This is Aaron Silverhands, the Horizon Walker I did for a recent one-shot. As you can see, I was down to 97 hit points. Now, everything that I talked about when it came to the Ranger, and I'll get back to it here in a second, comes down to basically building into one spell. It is a 4th level spell, and there it be. And that's Guardian of Nature. If you see Primal Beast, your walking speed increases by 10 feet. You gain dark vision with a range of 120 feet. Your strength-based attacks roll with advantage. Melee attacks deal an extra 1d6 force damage on a hit. Notice, force damage, hunter's mark. Okay. And then you have Great Tree, which is 10 temporary hit points. So Tireless, 1d8 plus your modifier. Constitution saving throws with advantage. You make dexterity and wisdom-based attack rolls with advantage. And while you're on the ground within 15 feet of you is difficult terrain for your enemies. Do you see what they did with Hunter's Mark as it scales? I do. It took me a minute to figure it out. Now, with that being a concentration spell, one of the things that you can do with it, and once again, this is a 4th level spell, we should have access to freedom of movement. So you can cast freedom of movement, and you are all over the place. You're unstoppable. This particular character I had moving at 110 feet movement base per round because of my spell selections. So it's actually a very powerful transition. So, what did Wizards of the Coast do? They just gave us essentially a free casting of Guardian of Nature. Buffed it up, made it a single target that you can transition at a bonus action. And Guardian of Nature, as a Ranger player, is one of my favorite spells to use at higher levels, and now we have it at a lower level, and it scales. You can still use Guardians of Nature when at level 14, 15, when you have access to 4th level spells. But at this point, it's really not necessary. Because you're not going to get the additional temporary hit points from the spell. You're not going to get a lot of things from it. What you're going to get is making a choice between Feral and Great Tree, and what you have built and baked into the class now is Guardians of Nature, as well as Blind Sight. So if they make modifications to some of the Ranger spells, like say Cloud Fog, which is also one of my favorites, then you become not only invisible, but if someone can see invisibility, you become obscured, because invisibility and Cloud Fog are two very different mechanics. So, does that make any sense? It does to me. So, did they nerf the Ranger? Did they build it up? I think so. I think they did it in a very unique way to the class as an exploration class, to where a lot of the features you can use without expending too many resources. So, like everybody else, I'm curious as to what they did with the other spell lists, because there are scaling single-use attacks that require concentration, and that's always been one of the Ranger's biggest problems, is that concentration is required even for a single-use spell like Zephyr Strike, Hail of Thorns. But the thing about those spells is that you can hold those under concentration until it's more advantageous for you to use them. So, does that detract from it? Maybe. Does it improve the class? Maybe. When things roll out and we see how the subclasses synergize, and that's also where the Rangers been heads above everybody else. Now, a lot of people love the Gloomstalker. I liked the Gloomstalker when it first came out. I won't deny it. Then when I discovered the Fey Wanderer, which is more my play style, as well as the Horizon Walker, which is also more my play style. And the Horizon Walker being a little bit more tanky, has tank options. So if I'm not going to play a Shatterkai, I can play others and still tank out some damage from time to time. What I found is that the Ranger class, if you know how to play it, can do things that no other class can, which is the goal. So what's the flavor of the class? Exploration, movement. It is fast as a monk. It can even be faster. Can it tank damage like a barbarian? No, depending on the subclass, you can tank damage. If you do anything with the Ranger, it's really good all the way around. Is it gonna do everything that every other class can do? No. The identity has always been kind of like the everyman, sort of like Hawkeye in the Avengers. It's more of a archer, but you can also play it as a martial. You can do a lot of things with it. And the 2024 doubles down on some of those features, like increasing the Deft Explorer roving from 5 to 10 feet, which gives you a base 40 movement speed. With mobility, that's now 50. And you get a free feat when you first start. See where this is going? Anyway, so that's my take on the Ranger. And I'll see you in the comment section.